When the world hints at change, most businesses don't budge. When the world demands change, they take the easy way out. When I read that in Ron Tite's new book, I was like, oh, we got to talk about that, because that is really such a wise statement and helps us frame what we're talking about today. So if you are new to the Joyosity Podcast, welcome. I'm so glad that you're joining us. Whether you are a seasoned leader or you are just starting out, you belong in the Joyosity community. And we base all of our work here on 3 bedrock beliefs. 1, true leadership requires more than just surface level strategies. It requires a profound commitment to everything that makes us human. Number 2, we use genuine curiosity so we can create positive culture with all the complex people that we work with, because complex people are all we got. And that joy is the heartbeat of a healthy leader and a healthy organization. And so we are putting joy and fun right in the center of our work. And every week we bring experts and dynamic conversations and leaders to share their expertise from hard-won experience, from research, and helping you apply it every day. I'm Jenn Whitmer, international speaker, leadership consultant, and all-around joy bringer, hosting you and guiding you along the way so you can take the kind of like aha insights and actually put them into your life as a leader. So as always, grab your multiple beverages, get your speakers ready. I cannot wait to introduce you to Ron. So Ron Tite is really one of my favorite people to follow on LinkedIn. I've quasi-stalked him for a while before I asked him to be on the show. He is a speaker and author, founder. He is the chief strategist and innovation officer at Church and State, which is an award-winning advertising agency and is also identified as a great place to work. So you just need to know he knows what he's talking about. And his new book, The Purpose of Purpose, comes out next month, and you are getting a sneak peek at it today. So let's welcome Ron.
Well, thanks, Jen. So you're the stalker. It's you, right? Yeah,
Me.
it's you.
I'm the one. Don't call it in.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad that you are here. I always like to start with giving people just a little bit of your origin story. How did you get here to be a multiple author or, agency owner, all the things? Give us a little bit of your history.
Well, it was a damp night in 1970. Well, I love that, your thought around curiosity, of real curiosity, true curiosity. And that's kind of the thing that's just driven my career in a wide variety of different places. I mean, everything from I did a phys ed degree. So that's where it started, naturally. I did a phys ed degree. It was like the beginning of the internet when I graduated. So I kind of, I started working in the business school at Queen's University. And then I got a job at a web shop, like really kind of bringing newspapers online. Then because of that, then transitioned into advertising. And it was that kind of move as I went into advertising and started to see the world of creativity applied to business that things really were exciting for me and kind of and filled me with even more curiosity. And, so started as an account guy, then started doing stand-up comedy. And so I wanted those worlds to be closer together. So I moved into the creative department as a writer. And then that just kind of, writer, creative director, executive creative director at an international agency. And so all these things were kind of coming together, like a little bit of comedy and a little bit of creative and a little bit of an account and a little bit of strategy. And then at some point you're like, I should just control my own destiny here a little bit, and so that's when I left to start my own agency in 2011, I think. And at that point, the speaking world was beginning to take off too. And so, that all those weird experiences and skills kind of came together where, kind of the entrepreneurial angle of starting an agency, the advertising strategy and creative angle of like helping clients figure out what to do in business, the speaking side of stuff, which really helps kind of scale that expertise to people who may not be in a position to hire an agency or who may not be a marketer for that matter. And then into books. And so it all kind of, works together in a weird, random kind of way.
What I love about that is because I think that's actually the more common story. We think the common story is this linear career path that, you take this degree that automatically applies to this job and you work your way up the corporate ladder. And I just think that is actually the outlier.
Yeah.
And the norm is this more circuitous roller coastery path that weaves together all our different experiences. Jade Simmons was on the podcast back in January, and she also talks about purpose. And we talked about, so Jade is a concert pianist who also raps on stage and is a speaker. And so she's brought all of these various experiences together. And we really talked about how nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted. So
Right.
even your phys ed degree, because I was a music teacher, I understand that. The back end of that, it's not wasted. It comes into
It's
who
in
you
there.
are.
It's
Yeah.
in there. There's a part of it that's in there 100%.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, in your new book, I appreciate this like woven wisdom that you have taken from your experiences of being a part of many organizations and also then helping other organizations in business. And Jade and I were talking very much about purpose as an individual, and this expands that conversation. And I think it might be obvious, or it might be like, oh, I hadn't thought about that businesses get purpose wrong a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so why do you think so many people get it wrong? And like you argue in your book that businesses get drunk on ideals and then misinterpret purpose. So
Yeah.
what's this real definition of purpose that you have around that?
Well, I think the real definition, I'll start there. The real definition of purpose is really, it is the strategic, heart of your organization. That's what it is. It's the strategic heart of your organization.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the the promotional heart of your organization. It is not it's not the feel good part of your organization.
Mm-hmm.
And so why do they get it wrong? Well, I think there's a couple of things at play here. So first of all, business has been reacting to an environment where the average consumer or the average citizen has looked at all the social ills in society and have looked at business and pointed the finger and said, you know what? You're responsible for most of them. And it's gone beyond, like the traditional, people who hate those who are wealthy, or those, they hate capitalists, or, it's gone well beyond that. And really kind of coming out of the pandemic, everything from the Great Resignation to, George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. And there are so many different things when everybody just looked in business and said, you're getting this wrong. You greedy people you're the problem. And so what did business do? Well, business reacted in a way to say like, oh, we are not horrible people. And the truth of the matter is that we all have a hand in social inequality, all of us, as business people, as human beings. And solving those issues it's really difficult, and it takes a long time, and it's really complex. But business didn't have time for that.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, how do we just do this quick, in I used the line you used was the superficial strategies. How do we come up with a superficial strategy? And so what they did was they said, we need purpose. And so that we can go to the world and tell the world, no, look, we painted it on the wall right there.
With an eagle.
Yeah. And it's got an eagle, and there's a leaf. And so, so that's how business responded. Business responded by saying, we now have purpose. And they, were guided by, like Simon Sinek saying, like, what's your why? Which every single person in the world now is like, what's your why? What's your why? And I'm not saying it's great thinking from Simon. It's really great stuff. But what business did was they lost the connection between why they're in business and where they make their money.
Yes.
And without that connection, then you're just trying to get ink. So people would say, like, our why, our why is that we want to save the planet. And it's like, you make a cracker. What are you talking about?
Right.
What?
Yeah. I mean, so in one of my keynotes, I talk a lot about why joy is the heartbeat of an organization, but joy has to be connected to purpose. Joy isn't just this fleeting happy thing. It's connected to purpose, and purpose done well then produces profit, how you
Yep.
make your money. But if you put profit in the center, you will eventually fail and burn out because you don't have something that sustains you. But if you do connect purpose to how you make your money, solving a problem for someone, you actually build a better business. And that's why purpose matters so much.
Yeah,
Uh,
100%. There's an analogy in there that can help explain it, which is in basketball. I mean, you can't see because I'm sitting down. Viewers can't see this, but I'm 6'9".
oh,
Real
I
life.
am 5'3". That would be amazing if we were together on stage.
I'm actually 5'8". I'm 5'8". But let's just go with it. I'm six
Okay,
foot
great.
nine. And so in basketball, when you're playing basketball, when you dribble down the court, or so I'm told, that when you stop, you have a pivot foot.
Mm-hmm.
And the pivot foot allows you to decide whether I'm going to go in this direction, or I'm going to go in this direction, or I'm going to go in this direction. The pivot foot is not the foot that moves.
Mm-hmm.
The pivot foot is the foot that is anchored to the floor. The pivot foot keeps you anchored in one place and focused so that you don't travel, that you don't go wildly all over the floor trying to find your next direction. You can't do that. Your pivot foot keeps you focused. You can still go in very specific directions with your pivot foot. Your next move is you're passing this way, or that way. Purpose is like that. The
Yeah.
purpose keeps you anchored and focused so that when you look to the activities that you want to, or behaviors or decisions that you want to make, the purpose has a way of focusing those so you don't just do a bunch of random stuff. There's nothing I hate more, than hearing somebody go like, we had a brainstorming session, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a bunch of stuff, and we're going to, I almost swore there, we're going to take a bunch of stuff and throw it against the wall, and we're going to see what sticks. And I'm there going, what are you, how limitless is your budget?
Yeah, you can do that if you have all the time and money.
Yeah. I just think we need to be better. That we need to be a little bit more focused in our priorities and our choices.
Yeah. When I was in sixth grade, I was identified as a leader fairly early, probably because I just talked a lot. And I was a part of our elementary school was creating a purpose statement. And so
Yep.
I was one of the student representatives on the committee. And at 11, 12 years old, in that committee meeting, because I am saying this and I'm sure you're listening going, oh, I've been a part of those committees. I realized very quickly that actually what I had to say didn't matter in this purpose statement creation committee, whatever it was called. And when I was reading your book, I was reminded of that experience because I've been on many other committees since throughout my career in education, as a school leader, even in consulting capacities, where it becomes clear that, oh, we're just doing this. We're not actually trying to find the North Star. And I think the best definition that I've heard of that is like purpose washing. I just thought that was really great. So like, it's becoming performative in some way. So you draw this really sharp line between purpose and purpose washing. So what are some like red flags that a company is using their purpose for, the PR statement, the eagle on the wall with the leaf or whatever, versus a real strategy that connects as an alignment piece in their business?
Well, it's a great question. And first of all, I want to just reiterate that to anybody who buys this book, I guarantee that it will trigger one horrible nightmare experience for you that you've had in your past.
Oh, it was many.
Guaranteed.
Oh yeah.
So it's a problem. Well, we have a quick, check on it. And it's called the essential do, which is, can you complete the statement? We believe that blank, so we do this.
Mm-hmm.
And if those are connected, we believe that we believe that saving money helps you live better. So we align our supply chain to deliver the most efficient prices in the market. Okay, you believe something and you back it up with action. If there is a disconnect, we believe in saving the planet, so we make motor oil. What? It doesn't connect. It's not connected to where you make your money. And so that's a really quick test of it. But I think there's some other superficial stuff that we can do, which is like, how quickly was this written?
Mhm.
Who was consulted on the writing of this? Is this is it the strategy team or is it the comms team? If it's a comms team, then the comms team is looking to get a press release out. And if it's a strategy team, the strategy team doesn't care as much about that, but cares about what are the actions we need to take to bring this to life.
Mhm.
And so that's who was involved in the creation of this. That I think is the quickest check on it.
That's really good. That's really good. My husband is also in advertising and marketing, so I understand that they're looking for the press release, even though he is not superficial in any way, shape, or form. But there's just a different team purpose. That individual team's purpose comes out in different ways.
Yeah, the marketer. What the marketer will want to do is, some people will go to their marketer partners, whether it's an agency or whether it's their marketing team or whatever, to say like, okay, now we got to start communicating this.
Mhm.
And the real challenge is, are we communicating an aspiration
Mhm.
or are we communicating a reality?
Yeah.
Like, we believe this, so we do this right now. Or is it we believe this, so we hope that in the future, maybe, hopefully we can do this.
Uh-huh.
And both are okay, right? Both are okay saying, look, we're embarking on something. We're going to change. We're going to do this. It's when they're mixed up that it's a problem. When we communicate it as if it's in the present tense, but the reality is that it doesn't exist today and that it's an aspiration.
Yeah.
And so that's a lunch bag letdown for consumers who are interacting or with employees who are, part of this culture. So we can communicate about the future and we can talk about the present, but we can't mix them up.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think about when I've been a part of all of those, committees, I always think that I have come to believe, I didn't used to think this, but I have come to believe that we start in the wrong places.
Mm-hmm.
That I now, when I work with leaders or organizations, start with their values and then their purpose before we ever get to talking about your vision, your mission. Those things are secondary that come out of your values and purpose. And I also encourage leaders to have their individual purpose. Like, what am I doing in the world? So they can connect to their organizations. Like, where is the overlap and the alignment? Why am I here? And I think, to your point, people recognize when there is that misalignment. I mean, there's tons and tons of research about why leaders leave, why employees leave. And most of it comes down to people say one thing and do something else. Like, that's the non-fancy way of saying it, because we're always going to believe the body and the action over the words. So you allude to this a little bit in the Great Resignation, like people are leaving, but I love that you've got a deeper reason for that, that the Great Resignation, people are genuinely leaving, but there's a bigger problem, that the leaders would be resigned to the status quo. Like that resignation is actually a bigger issue. So what do you see? Why do you see that as such a problem?
Well, yeah, the Great Resignation, the one that got all the ink was the people, which was a reaction to an unfavorable situation. This sucks. I quit. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
The other definition of resignation, though, you're right, is way worse, is when someone is merely resigned. And they're resigned to having the same conversations. They're resigned to having the same meetings with the same people. They're resigned to the same actions over and over and over again. And why that is dangerous is because, well, for a couple of different reasons. One, there is no internal growth. There's no quest for internal growth where the status quo is the default. That there is no analysis. We're just going to do it because that's what we've always done. That's what I've always done. And there's no amount of personal growth there. And organizations can't grow unless individuals commit to personal growth.
Yes. Say it again. Say it again.
Yeah. Organizations can't grow unless individuals commit to personal growth.
Yes.
And so when someone goes like, you know what, I'm going to, I was just last week with 4,000 realtors. And the organization was like, we are this, we are this, we are this. And amazing words, right? Amazing things. And what organizations we do a great job of that, of the we. We need to be focused. We need to grow profitability. We need to cut costs. We need to be more efficient. But if the we doesn't become a me, it doesn't go anywhere. So if we need to drive trust, then I need to do it too. Then the me needs to embody that from a personal standpoint. Yes. And so that if we're just defaulting and we're resigned to just doing the same old thing, then that growth is never going to happen. The organizational growth will never happen. The second thing is why it's dangerous is when people are resigned, they're in a very reactive mode where they're just letting the world unfold before them and they will respond accordingly. And because it's the same old stuff, the status quo, they kind of know how they're going to respond because that's the way they always respond. And so that's not a proactive way to kind of change business. The third reason why I think it's really dangerous is someone who is resigned, they're just not engaged.
No.
Like they're just not engaged in the workplace. And that means there are valuable voices with really interesting perspectives. It's not that they're not being heard, it's that they're not speaking up. They're not pushing themselves to go, no, what do I really think about this in my role? And how can I voice that to make this place a better place or a more successful place? And we're losing that. And when we lose that, when the individuals lose that, engagement goes down, loyalty goes down, all of that. And I just don't think it's good for people's mental health. I think it's way more enriching and it's way more fulfilling for somebody who is engaged in their work on a daily basis. And they're so engaged that they want to make it better for everybody.
Yeah. One of the things I say a lot to leaders when they feel in that place is that you have to be the most active participant in your own life, because so much we just allow come at us. And there's genuine fear of change. But I think people don't take the next step to think about, okay, I'm scared to change, so I'm just going to stay the same. But I don't think people consider what happens if I don't change. So one of the questions I often ask is like, if it is the same a year from now, what does that feel like? And most people are like, oh, like there's this physical reaction of like holding out of the chair because it's so painful. And we don't ask that next question because we're so stuck in the fear of it could fail. It could like whatever other fears you have about change, because there's multiple ones. But that status quo is actually, I think, a myth, because I think we live life really on an up escalator, or, or a down escalator that you're trying to climb up. If you stay the same, you just start to go down.
Yeah.
And that status quo is really a myth around that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, sorry. I'm getting distracted because I want to ask you so many more questions, and I just looked at the time. So we are going to pause our conversation because we get you for 2 conversations. Yes. And so we will be back next week to really, I think one of the questions that I want to talk about next week, so here's your little teaser, friends, is you're like, well, but I'm not the leader. I'm not the leader, so what do you do when you are the one recognizing things? If you're that smushed leader who's managing up and down, you don't feel like you're the ultimate decision maker. How do you then manage this purpose or purpose washing or whatever's happening in your organization? So make sure that you join us next week.
Love it.
So let me put my coach hat on for just a moment. Don't just leave this here. Take a moment. What did you learn? What's your next tiny action step? Share this episode with someone and tell them what you're going to do. Check the show notes for all the links and connect with us on LinkedIn and all the other socials, or just, drop me an email at Jenn, with 2 N's, at jennwhitmer.com. We want to keep this conversation going with you. I know your earballs have a lot coming at them, so thank you for listening to the Joyosity Podcast and being a part of our community. Please take a moment to rate and subscribe. It helps more people join us in the movement to create positive culture with complex people. So work is a joy, people are whole, and organizations flourish. Can't wait for you to join us.